Midnight hums like a machine trying not to wake the building. The glass outside is black, the San Gabriel Mountains erased, turning Pasadena into a reflection of its own lights. Somewhere behind the sun, 3i/Atlas is at perihelion, invisible to every camera we own. If the numbers bend tonight, they drag more than a graph with them. I press rec, and the room feels 1 degree colder. The main control room isn't big, just dense. Rows of workstations arc around a wall of displays, one for the feed from the Minor Planet Center, one for internal dashboards, one for the network news rundown that's supposed to carry a friendly, harmless segment about our second interstellar visitor. Above them, 2 small American flags hang at opposite corners like punctuation marks. The air smells like burnt coffee, plastic, and the dust that never quite leaves old carpet. Every monitor paints the room in the same shade of late-night blue. On my center screen, the MPC feed scrolls, time stamps, observatory codes, residuals, chi-squared values. I watch numbers drift past like they're trying to remember their lines. A smaller window sits pinned to the right, company policy PDF, highlighted line glowing softly, no claims on artificiality, no engineered or propulsion language without at least 2 independent confirmations from recognized institutions. At the bottom of the document, Legal Affairs, New York. I keep it open like a safety on a gun. The speakerphone to my left hisses softly, then picks up a distant room tone, fans, maybe, or an air conditioner in Arizona that's been running since the afternoon. Alex, you still with me? Dr. Elena Ruiz's voice comes through, a little compressed, a little tired, but steady. Yeah, I say. Still here. Pasadena doesn't sleep when there's ratings on the line. You're not the one who had clouds 3 nights in a row, she mutters. We finally get clean skies and the sun decides to stand directly in the way. Solar conjunction has strong opinions, I say. Perihelion off camera. Brings out the best in everyone. I'll give you best, she answers. Best we can do is trust the models until the window opens. Any update from your side? I glance at the internal dashboard. The network rundown for the night has our segment blocked at the 22-minute mark, interstellar object at perihelion, fun facts, pretty graphics. The slug looks like a joke we haven't figured out the punchline to yet. My cursor blinks in the lower third drafts, 3i/Atlas, interstellar visitor nears the sun. I delete visitor, type object. Delete object, type anomalous interstellar visitor, then erase anomalous, leaving just interstellar. The word looks smaller by itself. No update, I tell her. Just the usual, legal wants no adjectives, news wants no boredom, and JPL wants no drama. I'm supposed to make that into television. No adjectives is good science, she says. Bad TV, but good science. You say that now, I reply. Wait until marketing decides this needs a hashtag. On the far left screen, a different window glows, a PDF of an old story about Oumuamua. The headline is circled in red pen from a meeting years ago, Alien Probe or Just a Rock, the article that made my career for about 3 weeks and then nearly killed it when half the country turned it into a meme and the other half turned it into a conspiracy. The printout has been folded so many times the creases have gone white. I keep it here as a reminder that words don't just describe reality, they blow it up and sell the pieces. A new email notification slides over the policy window, from Legal Affairs New York, subject, tonight's 3i/Atlas segment, urgent. I open it. The message is short. Reminder, no engineered, probe, artifact, alien, or propulsion terminology in any on-air discussion, crawl, or digital copy without explicit legal sign-off. Suggested phrasing, unusual non-gravitational behavior, interesting object, anomalous data. Please confirm. I type back, fingers crossed. We'll keep it boring. And hit send. It feels like signing a preemptive surrender. On the MPC feed, the last pre-perihelion observations trickle in from hemispheres that still had a line of sight before conjunction. Small observatory codes, K92, 703, names I've seen enough times to feel like distant colleagues. Each line slots into the model, the predicted orbit tightening like dials being turned. A plot window sits open on another monitor, residuals versus time for 3I/Atlas. Right now it's a familiar blur, a spray of points around zero, like static on an old TV. Noise you can believe in. You're recording locally, right? Elena asks. Not just trusting the stream. Local rec since top of the hour, I say. Triple backup. If the building burns down, my hard drive will still be complaining about it. Good, she says. If something happens tonight, I don't want to explain to history that someone forgot to hit record. The building vibrates subtly as the HVAC cycles down, then back up. The hum lowers half a step, then returns. It's the kind of change you don't notice until you've sat here too many nights in a row, watching numbers instead of clouds. The clock on the wall above the flags reads 12:07 a.m. There are only 3 other people in the room, a graphics guy dozing over a tablet, a junior producer scrolling quietly through social media for any early chatter about 3I/Atlas, and an engineer watching the router status lights with the resigned expression of a man who fully expects something to break. Most of the network is asleep. Our audience won't see anything until we package it at dawn. But the sky, what little we can see of it from the out-of-the-way instruments that still have a line of sight, doesn't wait for broadcast. The internal IM pings. A message from New York pops up at the bottom of my screen, from exec producer, you'll have 90 seconds tops. No speculation. Keep it cool science, not end of the world. We're leading with domestic stuff. Confirm. I type, copy. Cool science. No world ending. And send before I can talk myself out of the sarcasm. You sound annoyed, Elena says. I forgot the phone picks up the keyboard. It's fine, I say. They just want a tidy universe with good ratings. I'll send them one if the sky cooperates. She snorts softly. The universe doesn't do tidy. The MPC feed bumps. A new block of data rolls in with a timestamp nudging up against the edge of our last good preconjunction observation. It's not much, just a handful of measurements, but my plotting script digests them, recalculates the orbit, redraws the residuals. The static tightens. Points cluster. A familiar relief, the feeling that reality still matches the math, that the model hasn't drifted off the rails. I take a breath I didn't notice I was holding. Looks normal, she asks. For now, I say. Residuals are playing nice. Then you should relax, she says. Let the sun do its thing. We'll know more once it comes out the other side. I stare at the tiny label near the bottom of the dashboard, post-conjunction reacquisition window, estimated 4:12 to 4:37 Universal Time Coordinated. In local time, it's late night turning into early morning, a narrow slot where the geometry lines up and we can start tracking again. Miss it, and the whole world waits in the dark for at least another day. The thought sits in my chest like a small, heavy stone. I open the lower third draft again. Current text, 3I/Atlas, interstellar visitor nears the sun. I move the cursor between interstellar and visitor and type anomalous, then stare at it. Anomalous is a small rebellion. An adjective with just enough teeth to maybe catch on something. I remember the red circle on the Oumuamua headline and delete the word. You're doing it again, Elena says. Doing what? Editing your conscience into the lower third, she says. Let the data talk first. Data doesn't trend, I answer. Headlines do. Then write one for us, she says. For the log. Not for the viewers. What's your headline tonight? I look at the residual plot, still mostly noise. At the empty part of the graph where the post-perihelion points will go when the world turns enough to see them. No headline yet, I say. Just a caption, please wait, the universe is recalculating. She laughs, just once, a soft burst that cuts through the static. Fine. Call me when it's done recalculating. I'm grabbing coffee. Don't let legal rename the object while I'm gone. The speakerphone clicks. The Arizona room tone vanishes into our California one. In the brief silence that follows, I can hear the engineer's chair creak, the graphics guy mumble in his sleep, the faint buzz of a fluorescent ballast that's been on its last legs since before I transferred here. The MPC feed keeps rolling, but with perihelion in the blind spot, it's all housekeeping, confirmations, corrections, routine notes. The residual plot sits quietly, waiting for the world to rotate. I stand up, stretch, and walk to the small window built into the far wall, more of a courtesy than a source of light at this hour. Pasadena's street grid glows faintly below, sodium and LED mixing into a tired, orange-blue haze. The mountains are invisible, the sky flat and empty. If I didn't know better, I'd say nothing was happening. I press my palm to the glass. It's cold. Behind me, my computer dings. A new notification expands over the MPC window, from Standards and Practices, Subject, 3i/Atlas Talking Points. I sit back down. The email is meticulously neutral, our role is to inform, not alarm. We encourage use of phrases such as, ongoing observations, scientists are excited to learn more, and, plenty of time for future studies. Please avoid framing that suggests imminent danger, existential risk, or unique, unprecedented threat. I rub my face with both hands. Plenty of time, I mutter. For what, exactly, they don't say. On the edge of my keyboard, the old Oumuamua printout stares at me. The red circle around alien probe or just a rock has faded, but it's still there, ghosts of ink pressed into the fibers. That story doubled our views, then doubled our headaches. It taught me how fast American curiosity curdles into fear, and how fast fear gets monetized. It also taught me how quickly your name can become a punchline. I open a new internal note and type, 3i/Atlas segment, internal only. No adjectives beyond interstellar, unusual, non-gravitational. Emphasize ongoing nature. Avoid concrete conclusions. Then I highlight no concrete conclusions and backspace them out. My fingers hover over the keys, then drop. Another MPC update lands. The script recalculates, the plot flickers, then settles again. On the lower edge of the graph, a faint outline appears, the predicted post-perihelion path, a ghost of where the points should fall once we can see again. It arcs neatly, a promise of order. I watch it like it's a heartbeat on a monitor. Alex. The engineer's voice breaks my focus. He nods toward the wall clock. You want me to route a clean feed for your piece now, or wait until we get something usable? Wait, I say, then stop. Actually, go ahead and route it. Just in case. I don't want to find out we lost the moment because someone overslept. He shrugs, spins his chair, starts typing into his own console. On my screen, a tiny green indicator lights up, studio feed armed. Another degree colder. Time drags. The graphics guy wakes up, pretends he wasn't sleeping, and starts playing with mock-ups of the solar system, orbit lines swooping around a cartoon sundae. I watch him drag 3i/Atlas in as a little white dot with a dotted line trajectory. The simplicity irritates me more than it should. The junior producer comes over with a fresh cup of coffee, leaves it by my elbow without speaking. When I look up, she's already gone back to her screen, scanning Twitter for any mention of our interstellar guest. There's nothing yet. No leaks, no bloggers reading between the lines. Just the usual noise. For a few blessed minutes, the universe is boring. Then the residual plot stops looking like noise. It happens quietly. One point appears on the far side of perihelion, first data from an instrument that caught 3I/Atlas just as it began to emerge from behind the sun's glare. It's a single dot, nothing more. The script plugs it into the model, redraws the line. The cone of uncertainty narrows around the predicted path. The dot sits just off the line. Not far. Not enough to scream. Just off. I lean closer. The next update arrives 12 seconds later. Another dot. This one lands a little farther from the predicted path, in the same direction as the first. The arc of the model doesn't change much. But the residuals window flashes as the script adjusts. The baseline jitters, then shifts. My throat feels dry. I click, expand the residual plot. 2 points after perihelion, both on the same side of zero, both drifting the same way. Noise is supposed to scatter both ways, that's the comfort it offers. 2 points isn't a pattern, but it's something worse than nothing. Come on, I whisper. Stay put. The speakers crackle. Elena's voice returns, sharper now. I'm back. Coffee's terrible. What did I miss? You've got data, I say. My voice comes out flatter than I intend. Post-perihelion. 2 points. You're sure they're clean? As clean as they get, I say. Residuals just jumped dogleg. Both in the same direction. Share your screen, she says. I tap a key. The residual window duplicates into the call. I picture it appearing in a similar midnight blue room in Arizona. Silence on the line. I hear her breathing, slow, measured. The third point arrives. It drops into place on the plot, almost exactly where the implied line between the first two would have led it. The script redraws. The residuals aren't a cloud anymore. They're a march. Okay, Elena says softly. That's 3. Still within error bars, I say, because someone should. Barely, she answers. Zoom the scale. I roll the mouse wheel. The scatter tightens. What looked like noise now looks like a slope, small but steady, rising away from zero as time ticks forward. The y-axis reads residual, arcsec, but it might as well say decision. What's your delta V estimate? She asks. My fingers move on their own, pulling up a rough calculation, how much effective acceleration you need over how long to produce that drift. The number that appears at the bottom is tiny, almost pathetic in everyday terms. But out here, over millions of kilometers, tiny is everything. Order of a millimeter per second, I say. Sustained. There's a pause long enough that I wonder if the line dropped. Then Elena exhales. That's a millimeter per second sustained. Her voice has lost the dry humor. It's just precise now. Yeah, I say. My own voice feels a step behind my thoughts. That's not commentary. The room seems to listen. The engineer stops typing. The graphics guy's stylus freezes above his tablet. The only sound for a moment is the low, continuous hum of air and machines. Elena doesn't fill the silence. When she speaks again, the words land with the weight of something she already knew she'd say, but didn't want to. Then it's political. I look at the policy window, still glowing in the corner of my screen. No claims on artificiality, no engineered or propulsion language without at least 2 independent confirmations. The highlighted line might as well say, this is no longer just about physics. A new notification pops up almost immediately, like the system was eavesdropping. CMS status update, segment flagged, hold. The slug of our 3I/Atlas piece goes gray on the rundown. I click into the content management system. Our draft segment, script, and associated graphics now wear a small, infuriating label, hold, internal review. You seeing this? I ask. Seeing what? Elena says. Network just put our piece on ice, I say. Hold tag. Someone's awake in New York. That was fast, she says. You share the residuals with anyone else? Just you, I say. Models aren't even updated on the public side yet. Then it's not the plot, she says. It's the timing. Somebody's nervous. Another window blinks red. Access denied, orbit_Sol_UPD_03. I try again, just to be sure, and get the same response. The internal folder with the latest combined orbit solutions for 3i/Atlas, a directory I've had read access to all week, is now off limits. Unauthorized user. Contact administrator. They just pulled one of my folders, I say. I'm trying to sound detached. I don't. Temporary restriction, probably, Elena says, but there's no conviction behind it. They do that all the time. Not for B-roll segments, I answer. On the residual plot, a fourth point arrives, reinforcing the slope. It's not a cliff. It's not a scream. It's a whisper that won't stop. The junior producer walks over, frowning at her tablet. Alex, she says quietly. I just got a message from Standards. They want to review any copy on 3i/Atlas before it goes to prompter. And they pulled it from the show grid. It's just labeled TBD now. Got it, I say. Thanks. She hesitates. Is it bad? I glance at the screen, at the gentle but relentless rise of the residuals. At the blank area of the plot where future points will either confirm or contradict what we're seeing. It's early, I say. Go get some air. I'll let you know if we actually have anything. She nods and retreats, unconvinced but obedient to the tone. I mute the speaker for a moment, open a new directory on my local drive, and create a folder, Atlas_perihelion_RAW_UTC. Inside it, I mirror the incoming log files, residual plots, and a copy of the policy email. I generate a hash for the bundle, paste it into a plain text file, and name that with my initials and the current time. It's a ritual more than anything else, but rituals matter when the ground starts to move. On the wall clock, the hands slide toward 12:30 a.m. I unmute the phone. Okay, I say. I've got local copies of tonight's stream, plus the first post-perihelion points. I hashed the bundle. Good, Elena says. Send me the hash and the log structure. We'll mirror it on our end. If this turns into a fight, I want clean provenance. I email her the hash string and directory tree, then sit back. The monitors cast the same cold blue they did at the start of the shift, but the room feels different, as if the air pressure has changed. This could still be something mundane, I say, more to myself than to her. Outgassing, asymmetric coma, solar radiation pressure mismodeled, maybe, she says. But whatever it is, it's not going to care what legal in New York thinks. Our job is to not lie to the raw file. I look at the CMS tag again, hold. In network speak, it means do nothing until someone higher up decides what nothing means. They're going to sit on this, I say. At least until they can frame it in a way that sells ads without selling panic. Then you keep doing what you're doing, Elena says. Record. Tag. Hash. Stay boring in all the ways that count if somebody ever asks who knew what, when. The MPC window quietly updates the estimate for the post-conjunction reacquisition window. The numbers barely change, 412 to 437 universal time coordinated. Still the same narrow slot. Still the same message beneath it, if we miss this, we wait a day. It's just a line of text, but it feels like a verdict. I highlight it with the mouse, then let the highlight fade. You going to be awake for the window? She asks. I wasn't planning on sleeping, I say. Not after this. Good, she says. If this slope keeps building, those next points are going to matter a lot more than the ones we just saw. And if the slope vanishes? Then we both get to file a boring correction, she says. And your network gets their cool science segment back. Plenty of time for future studies, I quote from the Standard's email. Yeah, she says quietly. Plenty of time. The engineer kills the overhead fluorescence as he leaves, muttering something about grabbing food. The only light left is from the screens, washing everything in a deeper blue. The flags in the corners look almost gray. Outside, Pasadena might as well be a painting, frozen behind the dark glass. I save the current plot, label it with the time, and drop it into my local archive. The hash file sits beside it, a small string of characters trying to stand between truth and revision. My cursor blinks at the edge of the MPC window, waiting for the next block of data. Somewhere behind the sun, 3i/Atlas is still moving, whether we see it or not. The reacquisition window text at the bottom of the dashboard glows faintly, patient and unforgiving. 4:12 to 4:37. If we miss it, we wait a day. If the slope holds, I'm not sure a day will matter. I lean back in my chair, eyes fixed on that narrow strip of time. The room is silent except for the hum, the fans, and the soft, steady tick of the wall clock counting us closer to a moment we're not ready for. The fluorescents are off. The only glow comes from rows of monitors and the wall clock with its white hands ticking over the glass. The residual plot is still open on my center screen, that thin, insolent slope where noise should be. I create a new directory on the local drive. Atlas_perihelion_raw_UTC_mirror. Inside it, I start copying everything that moved in the last 2 hours, MPC feed logs, local residual plots, internal emails with policy lines and hold tags. I don't think, I just drag and drop, watching progress bars fill like slow fuses. When the last file lands, I open a terminal, hash the bundle, and get a string that looks like somebody fell asleep on their keyboard. 3F9C0A1D7B. I paste it into a text file, name it AC_0217Z_hash.txt, and save it beside the archive. Hashing is boring. That's why it's powerful. It doesn't care about headlines. It only cares whether someone lies later. The phone speaker crackles. Elena's back. How's our patient? She asks. Stable drift, I say. Residuals keep walking the same way. It's not a jump, it's a habit. Magnitude? Order of a millimeter per second, I say. Still small. Still wrong. Okay, she says. Send me the hash and folder tree. We're going to mirror it here and at the radio guys in New Mexico. Belt and suspenders. I email the hash and a quick description of the file structure. Within seconds, another window pops up, an incoming request from a secure file transfer client we only use for serious nights. I authorize the upload to 2 destinations, Arizona_optical and NM_RAD_array. In the corner of the screen, the CMS label on our segment stays gray, hold. The air unit kicks in, blowing across the back of my neck. The room drops another invisible degree. Reacquisition window still centered on 4:12 to 4:37? Elena asks. I glance at the dashboard. The text at the bottom of the main panel hasn't moved. Yeah, I say. Same 35 minutes. If we miss it, we wait a day. Reacquisition window, she says, almost like she's teaching a class. Fancy way of saying, this is when geometry does you a favor. A very small favor, I answer. Small is all we get, she says. We have scripts ready on our side. As soon as Atlas clears the sun enough, we acquire, fit the orbit, push residuals, and update the list. No adjectives. A beat. How's your side? I can set the internal scripts, I say. But the show is dead for now. Hold is glued on. They'll only pull it off if this turns into cute science again. Then give them something that refuses to be cute, she says. I almost laugh. On the far monitor, an alert from the network router blinks yellow then green. The engineer comes back with a paper bag and sets a foil-wrapped burrito next to my keyboard. You need calories, he says. Can't argue with physics on an empty stomach. Thanks, I say. He squints at the residual plot. That's not what it looked like at midnight. No, I say. It's more opinionated now. He grunts and walks away. Behind me, the junior producer has moved from social feeds to reading scientific preprints. Her screen reflects in the window glass, text floating over the dark city. My inbox pings again. From Internal Security, Data Governance. Subject, Unusual Access Pattern, Atlas_perihelion. I click it open. Please be advised that all data related to 3I/Atlas perihelion observations and post-conjunction acquisition are under enhanced monitoring. Share only with authorized scientific partners. Media use subject to prior review. No threat. No accusation. Just a reminder that someone is counting where the bits go. Alex, Elena says, we should bring in a solar person now. Someone who lives inside the star, not just around it. I was thinking the same, I say. Goddard? Yeah, she says. Miles Chung owes me 3 favors. I'll send him the slope. You set up a call. I open the contacts panel, scroll to NASA Goddard, Solar Physics, find Miles Chung, SPHWS, and hit Invite TO Meet. I attach a snapshot of the residual plot with the new points, 4 tiny dots marching away from 0 like they were given orders. A calendar overlay flashes, it's already past 5 a.m. on the East Coast. If he's awake, he's either on nights or never went to bed. The invite comes back accepted within 30 seconds. The video call window opens on the second monitor with a polite chime. For a moment, all I see is a dark office and a glare of light from a screen. Then a face leans into view, short black hair flattened on one side, rectangular glasses, a mug of something steaming in one hand. Ruiz, he says instead of hello. His voice is raspy. You drag me into this and share screen without telling me why. That's either rude or important. Both, Elena says. Miles, this is Alex Carter in Pasadena. He's the data masochist for the network and half of JPL's public-facing charts. Alex, this is Dr. Miles Chung, solar guy extraordinaire, worships plasma and hates adjectives. Confirmed, he says. No adjectives. Give me numbers. I'll run the models. He looks at me directly through the camera. Sleepy eyes, but awake in the way only a crisis can make you. I share the residual plot, the pre- and post-perihelion points, the best fit orbit, the curve that does not want to be normal anymore. Walk me through, he says. I talk, keeping my voice as neutral as the policy PDF wants it but failing to drain the edge out entirely. Pre-perihelion consistency. Solar conjunction blind spot. Post-perihelion reacquisition estimates. The actual points that arrived early, creeping beyond their assigned positions. Residuals are supposed to measure the distance between prediction and what the sky actually did, I say. Tonight the sky is drifting in one direction and not coming back. He leans closer to his own screen. On my end, his face breaks up slightly in compression, a mosaic of pixels trying to keep up. Scale, he says. I zoom the plot. The slope steepens visually, the tiny errors becoming a more honest incline. He says. And your confidence on the input data? Same instruments that gave us the pre-perihelion arc, Elena says. Same calibration, same reduction. I'd bet my career on them. You might be, he says, but it's not unkind. Okay. Non-gravitational acceleration at perihelion. You're sure it's not just asymmetric outgassing? Dust? Weird coma physics? I'm sure it doesn't look like any comet I babysat, Elena says. But we're not yelling engineered or propulsion until you and your friends tell us the sun cares. Friends is a strong word, he mutters. Coworkers, maybe. He takes a sip from his mug, sets it down, and starts typing. In the reflection of his glasses, I see code scrolling, graphs blinking into existence. I watch the wall clock, 2:21 a.m. here, 5:21 there. The building hums. The residual slope stares back. On another monitor, a small line of text updates. Reacquisition window T, 1 hour 51 minutes and 36 seconds. A countdown now, not just a timestamp. Someone on the back end decided we needed urgency on the label. Miles, Elena says, we've got about 2 hours until full reacquisition. We need to know whether this is just a neat curiosity or a reason to go bother more telescopes. You already bothered me, he says. That's step 1. He taps a key. A simple diagram appears in the shared window, a circle for the Sun, a curved line for 3I/Atlas, a marker at perihelion. Oberth effect, he says. Perihelions where a small push buys you the biggest change in orbital energy. Normally, we talk about that for spacecraft burning fuel at closest approach. Here, if you've got something doing persistent non-gravitational acceleration near perihelion, you're effectively playing in the steepest part of the well. In English, I say. If 3I/Atlas is pushing itself around at perihelion, he says, it's doing it in the place where every bit of push can yank the most on its own orbit and on what's binding it, meaning the Sun's gravity field and the local plasma environment. It's the worst place to misbehave if you want the star to stay unbothered. A tiny part of me tries to file that under interesting science, future documentary fodder. The rest of me is just cold. You're running simulations? Elena asks. Already started, he says. Give me 10 or 15 minutes for the first pass. Then we'll actually know whether we're in cool science land or I call my boss and ruin his morning land. The internal chat pings, a message from our exec producer in New York. From EP, overnight. Subject, Atlas. If we do anything on this today, it stays at the fun space level. No threat, no danger, no mystery force. If scientists are excited, we're excited. That's it. I close the message. It doesn't disappear from my head. The countdown on the dashboard ticks down another minute. In the lull, I adjust the local script queue. As soon as new MPC or direct astrometric data for 3I/Atlas hit the feed during the window, the system will auto-generate updated residual plots, archive them, and ping me. In another pane, I open the internal distribution list for Professional Minor Body Observers, US. A message draft sits half-written, subject line blinking. 3I/Atlas, call for independent post-perihelion astrometry. I don't send it yet. Once it's out, I can't pull it back. Alex, Elena says, you still there or did my plasma talk knock you out? I'm here, I say. Watching numbers and lawyers try to outrun each other. Good, she says. I want you awake when the window opens. I'm not babysitting this slope alone. The minutes pass in small noises, keystrokes, chair creaks, the distant whir of an elevator someone else is using. The graphics guy has given up on cartoon orbits and is now scrolling through stock footage of solar flares. The junior producer has 2 tabs side by side, one with cat videos, one with a PDF on non-gravitational forces on interstellar objects. Coping mechanisms. At 2:39 a.m., my inbox fills with 3 messages almost on top of each other. First, from NASA HQ, Communications Guidelines. Subject, interim language for 3I/Atlas coverage. Key bullet. No use of propulsion, engineered, artificial, threat, or risk to the sun in any public-facing material, press releases, interviews, TV segments, social media, without clearance from NASA HQ and partner agencies. Suggested phrases include unusual behavior, non-gravitational influences, unique opportunity to study solar system dynamics. Second, from Standards and Practices, updated thread. We echo NASA guidelines. No threat to the sun framing. Avoid existential/inflammatory language. We are not here to start the apocalypse. Third, from Incoming, Goddard/SPHYS/Chang. Subject, Atlas Perihelion Sims, First Pass. I open the third. The body of the email is short. Ran initial models with your non-grav term at perihelion. If sustained over several days, we see a transfer of energy consistent with destabilizing certain modes in the solar interior. Still refining, but ballpark, critical threshold crossed in -3 days. We need more data and more brains on this before anyone panics. Attaching plots. 3 words sit in the middle of the paragraph like a landmine. Critical threshold crossed. The attachment opens into a graph that looks, at first glance, like every generic star model I've ever seen on slides, lines, contours, color gradients, but the caption is different. Simulated solar core stability versus time, given current 3I/Atlas interaction pattern. The line slopes downward, smooth and slow at first. Then, around the 72-hour mark, it drops. My mouth tastes like old coffee. The call window pings. Miles appears more awake now, alert in the way only bad news triggers. You read it, he says. It's not a question. Yeah, I say. Critical threshold. 72 hours. That's not a phrase you bury in an email. This is first pass, he says. Don't carve it on a monument. But the math is not comforting. Elena whistles, low. You're telling me our interstellar object is poking the sun in the one place and at the one time that turns a small push into a very big problem. I'm saying, Miles replies, if the non-gravitational term you're seeing really reflects some ongoing interaction, and if that interaction keeps operating at or near perihelion parameters, big, if, there, then in about 3 days, certain internal modes of the sun stop behaving like the stable furnace we're used to. In English, I say again, because my brain rejects the gentle phrasing. In English, he says slowly, it means the star that runs your climate, your satellites, your biology, your everything stops being reliable. Past that, models diverge. They all end badly. Timescale after the threshold is still fuzzy, hours, days, but crossing it is, not recommended. Can we stop it? Elena asks. Miles looks off screen, like the answer might be written on a wall somewhere. With what? He says finally. You going to send a cancellation email to a Between Stars visitor? We don't know what's driving the non-grav term. We don't know if it's internal to the object, some field interaction, some. He cuts himself off before he can say the words the policy email forbids. We don't know. The room around me feels quieter than it is. The monitors hum, the clock ticks, but my ears are tuned to nothing but his breathing over the call. Look, he continues. Before anyone starts screaming, we need more data points through the window. Right now we're extrapolating a trend from a handful of post-perihelion measurements. That's dangerous. We need confirmation from independent observatories and other modalities. Radio, maybe neutrino detectors if we get really unlucky. Unlucky how? I ask. If this interaction is messing with the core in the way the models suggest, he says, some detectors might see changes before your eyes or satellites do. Let's hope they don't. My cursor blinks on the unsent email to the minor bodies list. A call for independent astrometry suddenly looks less like curiosity and more like triage. I unmute the microphone on my end. Miles, I say, what do you want me to do with this from the media side? You, he says. Preferably nothing. Not yet. You and I both know your network's not equipped to handle possible solar destabilization without the word apocalypse getting into somebody's lower third. We can be careful, I say, reflexively defending a system I don't fully believe in anymore. You can, he admits. But the internet won't. Once the phrase is out, it mutates. We need a narrow, controlled communication path until we know more. That's not me being an authoritarian. That's me wanting people to sleep for one more night. I don't think I'll be sleeping anyway, I say. Good, he says. Stay up. Watch the numbers. Let us worry about how to talk about the end of stellar time later. End of stellar time. He said it casually, like he's still trying on the phrase. Elena shifts in her chair. I hear the sound through the speaker. I'm going to ping a couple of colleagues in Chile and Hawaii, she says. We'll make sure they're ready for the window. Quietly. No chain emails. Trusted channels only. Do it, Miles says. I'm going to poke some people at Goddard and HQ. Not a full-on alarm. More like a raised eyebrow with math attached. The countdown ticks on. Reacquisition window T, 1 hour 24 minutes and 9 seconds. I open a fresh document in the internal CMS, not for broadcast, not for on-air use. Just plain text, flagged internal only. 3i/Atlas, 2 draft. I type. Candidate non-gravitational acceleration at perihelion observed in 3i/Atlas. Preliminary models suggest potential impact on solar stability if current pattern persists. Request target of opportunity observations by relevant US-based facilities to confirm or refute the presence and persistence of this interaction. Independent confirmation urgently requested. I read it twice. It still sounds like I'm understating everything and overstating nothing. Legal would be proud of the adjectives. Or the lack of them. Alex? Elena says. You went quiet. That's my job. I'm writing, I say. To who? To everyone who can point a serious instrument at 3i/Atlas, I say. Proper channels. To request. She exhales slowly. Do it clean. No drama. Just the math. I know, I say. No adjectives. The internal messaging icon flashes, New York again. From, EP, overnight. Subject, Atlas. Just got word NASA is monitoring the situation closely and will share appropriate information when ready. Translation, we wait. Please don't freelance. I glance at the policy email from NASA HQ. The line about no threat to the sun language looks almost comical next to Miles's attached plots. Alex, Miles says, as if he can see the tension on my face through the pixels. You're in a weird spot. You're half press, half data. I can't tell you what to do about the press half. But on the data half, document everything. Time stamps, hashes, who saw what when. If this goes sideways, historians, or whatever we have instead of historians, are going to care about that. I've been hashing since midnight, I say. Folders, logs, emails. My hard drive's more honest than my network. Good, he says. Then you're already doing the right thing. I finalize the 2 draft, then move to the submission interface for the Joint Network/NASA Observation Coordination Portal, a secure web form we use when some breaking event needs tilt time on big instruments. The fields feel heavier than usual. Object, 3i/Atlas. Phenomenon, candidate non-gravitational acceleration at perihelion. Request, target of opportunity observations, optical, IR, radio, other relevant modalities. Justification, I paste in the text from my document, tweak a phrase, remove a half sentence that wanted to say more than policy allows. Attachments, residual plots, MPC logs, hash file verifying integrity. At the bottom, a box asks for additional comments. My fingers hover, then type. Note, preliminary solar modeling, Dr. M. Chang, NASA Goddard, indicates potential crossing of internal stability threshold in -72 hours if current interaction pattern persists. This is not for public dissemination. This is for scheduling urgency. I almost delete that last line. Then I leave it. I enter my credentials. The system asks for two-factor confirmation. My phone vibrates. I type the code. The submit button feels like a trigger. Say it out loud, Elena says suddenly. What? What you're about to do, she says. No one will quote you. Just say it. I'm about to file a target of opportunity request, I say, because an interstellar rock is tugging on the sun in a way that might break it in 3 days, and we need more eyes on it before we decide whether to tell 8 billion people that their star has a deadline. Silence on the line. Miles doesn't correct me. Elena doesn't laugh. I click submit. The form goes gray, then white. A new line appears at the top of the screen. Your request has been received. Reference ID, to 2027-11 Atlas, perihelion. Status, pending review, high priority. An automated acknowledgement hits my inbox simultaneously. CC'd are a scatter of addresses, scheduling at multiple observatories, a generic HQ inbox, Miles's group, Elena's institution, and one address I don't recognize, solar-policy at hq.nasa.gov. Policy has entered the chat. The countdown on the dashboard rolls under an hour. Reacquisition window T, 58 minutes and 32 seconds. The building hums at the same volume it always has. The city outside the dark glass still sleeps. In the control room, the blue light from the monitors is unmoved by hashes, emails, or models. We have a slope where there should be noise, a 3-day number in an attachment from Maryland, and a request for eyes we might not have time to point. I save a snapshot of the to confirmation page, drop it into my mirror folder, and update the hash. The clock on the wall ticks once, twice, as if it's waiting with me. In less than an hour, the reacquisition window opens. If the pattern holds, we'll see whether the sun is just being interesting tonight, or whether, somewhere behind the blue light and the policy language, it has already started to fail. By the time the reacquisition window closes, the sky has stopped pretending to be random. The last of the scheduled scripts run and dump their outputs into my folders, fresh astrometry, updated residuals, time stamps packed in UTC, local logs mirroring everything with the stubborn precision of a bad conscience. On the main plot, the dots are no longer dots. They're a line. Pre-perihelion noise, conjunction gap, and now a clean, steady drift on the far side, each new point climbing along the same quiet slope like it got the memo. I save the frame, tag it with the time, update the hash, and drop it into the mirror directory. The room feels colder than any air conditioner could manage. My inbox shows 19 new messages. I click the top one. From, to coordination, Joint Network/NASA. Subject. To 2027-11 Atlas, perihelion. We are reviewing your target of opportunity request. Do not share preliminary interpretations externally until advised. Thanks for your prompt documentation. Below that, nothing but autoresponders. Out of office. Received. Will be in touch. Silence, translated into email. The only other human line in the stack comes from Miles, time-stamped just after the last data packet hit. From, M. Chang. Subject, 3I/Atlas, updated. More measurements through the window tighten the trend. If current non-grav term persists at this level, we cross internal solar stability threshold in approximate 72 hours. I'm escalating. Do not circulate outside secure channels. I reread cross internal solar stability threshold 3 times. Each pass makes it sound less like words and more like a door closing. An internal alert chimes. A new message lands in one of the professional lists I'm subscribed to under my respectable science communicator hat, not my TV makes this pretty hat. From Internal Solar Helio Working Group, Restricted. Subject, Preliminary Note, 3I/Atlas Interaction. The body is short, dry, and worse because of it. Preliminary models suggest that, if current interaction persists, internal solar stability threshold will be crossed in approximate 72 hours. This is not a localized phenomenon. Implications extend to all heliosphere-dependent systems. There's an addendum, no signature, just a line formatted like it was pasted from a chat window. This is not a local event. This is the end of stellar time for us. I scroll back up. Stellar time. As if the star runs the clock and everything else just follows. The building hums on, indifferent. I push my chair back and stand. The motion feels heavier than it should, as if the air itself has acquired density. The control room door requires a badge swipe even at this hour. The green light blinks, the latch clicks, and I step into the corridor. The contrast hits me. The hallway is lit in warm orange, the kind of carpeting and wall color designed to make corporate offices look neutral and forgettable. Vending machines glow at the far end. A red exit sign buzzes faintly over a stairwell. I walk to the little break room off the hall. It's empty. The fridge hums, the microwave clock blinks 3:46 a.m. in jittery green. On the community board above the coffee machine, there are flyers for flu shots, volunteer days, a charity 5K. Someone has pinned a postcard between them, a generic California beach, sunset over the Pacific, the kind of image that comes free in bulk when you order office supplies. It makes me think of a photo stuffed in the back of my wallet. I take it out. It's old, paper soft at the edges, colors faded. I'm 8 in the picture, hair too long, grinning with a missing front tooth, standing in front of the ocean while my sister sticks rabbit ears up behind my head. The sun is a white blast just above the horizon, washing out the top of the frame. My dad's thumb is visible in the bottom left corner, half an accidental lens cap. We'd driven up the coast for the day. Salt on my lips, sand burning my feet. I remember nothing about the drive home, just that the sun was still there the next morning. It always was. Tonight it has a number attached to it. 72 hours. The photo feels suddenly like a souvenir from a country that's about to be erased from the map. I slide it back into my wallet, then pull my phone out instead. There's a notification from my sister, a text from earlier in the night I didn't see. You alive? Haven't seen you on social all day. I type and erase 3 drafts. Hey, just another crazy night at work. Hey, watching a rock mess with our local star. Hey, do anything you want in the next 3 days. In the end I send. Still at the studio. Long shift. We'll call you later. Later compresses to a narrowing window in my head. The coffee pot is empty. I don't make more. The break room smells faintly of reheated soup and burned popcorn. Mundane, domestic, stubborn. I head back to the control room. The blue light is still there, wrapped around everything. Elena is on the speaker, mid-sentence. Radio guys in New Mexico got their first pass, she's saying. Nothing dramatic yet, but they're seeing some weird modulation in the solar wind where our friend is playing Twister. How weird? I ask, dropping into my chair. We're quantifying weird, she says. For now, assume not business as usual. You get Chang's updated note? Yeah, I say. Threshold. 72 hours. End of stellar time. Catchy phrase, by the way. That line wasn't his, she says. Some theory person on the list with a poetic streak. I hate them on principle right now. On the second monitor, Chang's call window is minimized but still connected. His status dot is yellow, available, reluctantly. A new internal message flashes on the CMS system, the one that controls what goes into our broadcasts. From Network News, Editorial Control. Subject, 3i/Atlas segments. Effective immediately, all Atlas-related content is to be treated as internal research only. No new segments to be scheduled without explicit approval from editorial and legal after coordination with NASA/HQ. Do not reference 3i/Atlas on air except in pre-approved language packages. Draft script edits attached. I open the attachment. It's my original overnight script, scalpeled. Phrases like, "we don't yet know," and "scientists are cautious," remain. Anything that smelled like uncertainty sharpened into unease is gone. Where I wrote, "unusual, persistent non-gravitational behavior," they've replaced it with, "interesting forces at play." I scroll to a line I added hours ago without thinking about it. If the current behavior continues, the sun becomes part of the story, not just the backdrop. It's gone. In its place. Events like this give scientists a chance to learn more about how our solar system works. The difference between "the solar system works" and "the solar system ends" is just a missing sentence and 72 hours. I open a new internal document, separate from any script. Its title bar is plain. 3i/Atlas, internal log, unreleased. On the first line, I type 012 to 245, initial post-perihelion non-gravitational trend detected. Residuals show drift consistent with sustained small acceleration at perihelion. CMS tag, hold applied. Internal access restrictions begin. Below that, I add each event as cleanly as I can. Time stamps. Who sent what? When the word "threshold" first appeared. When the first model returned 72 hours. I write. Approximate, 310, preliminary solar modeling from Goddard indicates potential crossing of internal stability threshold in -72 hours if interaction persists. Approximate, 340, internal heliocentric working group note, this is not a local event. This is the end of stellar time for us. I stop at end of the sentence. For us. Not for the star. For the things crawling on the speck next to it. Alex? Elena says. You're very quiet. That's my job. I'm making sure the day has a memory, I say. In case we're the ones who don't. Morbid, she says. Then, softer, necessary. My inbox pings again. From NASA HQ, Science Directorate, restricted. Subject, 3i/Atlas, interim guidance, internal. The message is longer than the others. I skim. Consolidate analysis through designated leads, Goddard, JPL, selected university partners. Limit data access to personnel with direct need to know. No external statements beyond generic, monitoring unusual behavior, language. All media inquiries to be routed through HQ. Do not speculate about worst-case scenarios in email. Then, buried midway through. If current interaction signature is independently confirmed and persists beyond, redacted, time frame, we will elevate the project to a higher classification and coordinate with relevant federal agencies. In that event, internal briefings will be adjusted accordingly. Relevant federal agencies is a phrase that does a lot of work while telling you almost nothing. I paste the relevant parts into my internal log, strip them of tone, leave only the mechanics. Over the next hour, something like a choreography takes shape. Miles escalates from his office in Maryland to a conference call whose participant list I can't see. Elena pings colleagues in Chile and Hawaii through channels that leave no public traces. New Mexico's radio array adds faint but consistent signatures of disruption in the plasma near 3i/Atlas's path, nothing the public would notice, everything a solar physicist would. My own role shrinks and sharpens. I'm not the one running models. I'm not the one signing off on classification levels. I am the one who sees the intersection between the raw files and the stories that will or won't be told about them. The network side of my job wants to translate this into language. The part of me sitting in front of hashed logs and residual plots knows language is the most dangerous tool in the room. Around 5:10 a.m., New York wakes up properly. The executive producer calls. This time it's not an email. The phone rings once. I pick up. Carter, a voice says. We're on a bridge with NASA in 20. I need to know what you think you know before I let you on. I recognize her, overnight EP, usually cool, sometimes amused. Now she sounds like someone reading an unfamiliar script. I think, I say carefully, that 3I/Atlas is doing something at perihelion that looks like sustained non-gravitational acceleration. I think NASA's solar people are running models that say if that pattern keeps up, the sun's internal stability gets compromised in roughly 3 days. I think nobody wants those two sentences in the same paragraph in public yet. She exhales loudly enough that it cracks the sound on my end. Okay, she says. That's what they're saying too, just with more caveats. Listen, this bridge is going to have folks from HQ, Goddard, maybe someone with 3-letter credentials if they're awake. Your role is to listen and not freeload any of this into copy. We're in hold until we're told otherwise. You're fine with sitting on "Sun may die in 3 days" as long as HQ says the word "monitoring" with a straight face? I ask. I can't keep all the acid out. Don't make me the bad guy, Alex, she snaps. We are not the ones with telescopes. We are not the ones with models. We are the ones with 100 million people who will panic in every direction if we hint at this before we understand it. I am not starting an early apocalypse because some spreadsheet looks nervous. It's not a spreadsheet anymore, I say. It's a trend. It's a 2. It's a 72-hour clock. And it might be wrong, she says. If it is, and we light the fuse, we don't get that back. So until NASA tells us this is real, we're in the basement with them, understanding it quietly. That's the job. The line goes soft for a second. I don't know what to say that doesn't sound either naive or cruel. Fine, I say finally. I'll be on the bridge. I'll keep my adjectives to myself. Do that, she says. I'll send you the link. The call drops. A second later, a calendar notification pops up with a red border. Bridge, 3I/Atlas, internal only, 5:30 Eastern Time. I add it to the log, because it happened. When the bridge starts, it's all voices and no faces. The interface shows a list of participants: HQ Science, HQ Policy, Goddard, JPL, NSC Liaison, Network News EP, Network News Science, that's me, a few university acronyms. Someone from HQ opens with a sentence that makes my skin crawl: this conversation is pre-decisional and not for public release. Over the next half hour, they say everything I already know and a few things I don't. Elena's residuals feed the models. Miles presents updated plots, the same significance, more precision. The 72-hour window narrows to a range. Best case, the models are overestimating the efficiency of whatever is happening at perihelion. Worst case, they're underestimating it. A voice that never gives its name but carries authority says, for now, our priority is maintaining social and economic stability while we refine analysis. We will not make public statements about hypothetical solar failure modes based on early, uncertain data. Someone else from a 3-letter agency asks pointed questions about threat vectors and intent, then walks himself back, remembering the policy email about forbidden words. Miles, when he speaks, sounds tired but anchored. Physics doesn't have a word for what we're seeing, he says at one point. We don't have a category 4 object from outside the system transfers energy from our star's core in a controlled pattern. Whatever we call it, it's new, and policy is going to invent the vocabulary faster than the equations will. The phrase hangs in the space between us. Physics doesn't have a word for this. Policy will invent one. I type it into my internal log verbatim. The call ends not with a decision but with assignments and the promise of more calls. Higher classification is mentioned again. Someone says, we'll need to loop in certain international partners, in a tone that makes it clear that need and want are at odds. When it disconnects, the control room feels enormous and small at once. The junior producer has left, her station is dark. The graphics guy is gone. The engineer is the only other person in the room, earbuds in, scrolling something irrelevant with the stubbornness of someone keeping their brain right-sized. I lean back and stare at the residual plot. The slope hasn't changed. It doesn't care about bridges or briefings. The blue light catches on the old Oumuamua printout still perched by my keyboard. The red circled headline looks childish now. Alien probe or just a rock? Tonight the universe skipped the question and went straight to the conclusion. Something out there is interacting with our star in a way that makes the word rock ridiculous and the word probe too small. I open a draft for an internal briefing document. Not for viewers. Not for the website. For the few people at the network who now have to live in this knowledge with me. Title: 3I/Atlas, Current Status Summary, Internal Only. I start with the facts. Interstellar Object 3I/Atlas observed exhibiting persistent non-gravitational acceleration at perihelion. Updated post-perihelion tracking shows a consistent trend, confirmed by multiple US-based observatories. Solar modeling, Goddard et al., suggests that if this interaction persists, internal solar stability threshold will be crossed in approximate 72 hours. No known mechanism within current physics fully explains the observed interaction. I type a second section, potential implications, and delete it twice. When I finally let words stay, they are stripped to bone. Potential implications, preliminary, not for external circulation. Loss of solar stability may impact Earth's climate, magnetosphere, and technological infrastructure on short time scales. Models diverge on exact outcomes, but none are trivial. Under tone and framing, my fingers want to write doom, collapse, end. Instead I type avoid, doom, apocalypse, or similar framing. Use loss of solar integrity, fundamental change in solar behavior, if needed. Loss of solar integrity. It sounds like a dental problem, not the end of the story. I save the draft, attach it to an email addressed to the exec producer and 2 senior science correspondents, mark it internal only, do not forward. Before I hit send, I alt-tab back to my personal log and paste in a line. Edited internal summary, removed doom, apocalypse, left loss of solar integrity. Language sanitized, content unchanged. It feels like I'm documenting a crime scene. Around 7 a.m., the first hints of outside reaction start to appear, not to Atlas, not to the sun, but to the systems quietly adjusting around them. On one of the news feeds, a small ticker runs beneath the main segment about something completely unrelated. Short technical hold on select communication satellites, no impact expected. On another channel, a press release scrolls by. Several power grid operators announce planned maintenance in coming days to ensure resilience. If you didn't know, you'd file it under background noise. Resilience is always in style. Inside certain mailing lists, the tone is different. A message from a satellite operations group. As a precaution, we're adjusting some spacecraft modes in anticipation of potential changes in solar output. Please treat this as routine risk management. Routine. A file attached to that email shows contingency flowcharts made for solar storms, now repurposed for something without a name. In the newsroom downstairs, I imagine it more than see it, producers are slotting these minor infrastructure stories into back half-hour blocks, giving them 30-second voiceovers. Not enough to cause panic, not enough to ignore. The system is clearing its throat. Up here, my world has shrunk to three things: the residual slope, the 72-hour countdown, and the log where I'm trying to make each second legible. At some point, the sun actually rises over Pasadena. I notice only because the window in the control room turns from black to gray to a washed-out blue. The mountains reappear, their silhouettes cut sharp against the light. For a moment, the real sun and the rendered sun on one of the monitors line up perfectly in my peripheral vision: star outside, icon inside, both circular, both apparently calm. The internal chat dings with a note from Miles. "We're locking down the detailed models under higher clearance," he writes. "You'll still get summary outputs, but full interiors go into the vault. This is above my pay grade now." I type back before I can stop myself. "Does the sun care about clearance levels?" He doesn't answer. Maybe he can't. Maybe he just doesn't know what to say. Elena calls instead of pinging. Her voice is softer now, the Arizona morning behind her. "You still logging?" she asks. "Every line," I say. "Good," she says. "Here's one you can add: Strel ratios for some of the solar telescopes went weird during the last set." Nothing definitive, but enough to make the people who stare at the rim of the sun for a living nervous. I add it. Time, source, effect. Nervous is implied. "And you?" she asks. "Are you going to do it?" "Do what?" I say, even though I know. "Pull a stunt," she says. "Leak something. Whisper to the wrong person. You've got one foot in news and one in data. That's prime saboteur territory." "I thought saboteur was your job," I say. It doesn't sound like a joke. "I'm a scientist," she says. "If I sabotage anything, it's my own grant proposals. You, Carter, you can widen the blast radius of a sentence by choosing where to drop it." I look at the internal summary I just wrote, the words I'm trying to keep inside the building. "Trust me," I say. "I've thought about it." "And," she says. "And if I go rogue and scream now," I say slowly, "we might buy the world a few extra hours of knowing. But we'd turn those hours into chaos. People stampeding in the dark toward exits that don't exist. Markets crashing. Planes grounded for the wrong reasons. It would be honest but useless." Elena is quiet on the line. "So what's the alternative?" she asks. "The alternative is I stay," I say. "I keep logging. I keep making sure that when this story finally surfaces, if it does, it has a backbone. No missing hours. No convenient blanks. Somebody has to be boring enough to leave a record." "You think that matters if the sun goes?" she says. "I think it matters if, for some reason, it doesn't," I say. "Or if someone, somewhere, sometime tries to claim we didn't see there was a clock. I want the files to argue with them." She exhales. "Congratulations," she says. "You've chosen to be a historian at the end of stellar time." "It's either that," I say, "or a hype man for a story I can't tell." Downstairs, a notification pops up on one of the news feeds: White House schedules closed-door briefing on space weather preparedness. It scrolls past in 10 seconds. No one in the general audience will notice. The people who do will shrug. Government loves drills. Up here, the phrase, "closed door," fits too neatly with higher classification. My internal log now spans pages, time stamps, quotes, policy lines, decisions made and deferred. So far, every action bends toward secrecy dressed up as caution. I add one more entry. Approximate, 9 o'clock, multiple federal entities shift language to space weather preparedness, resilience, routine risk management. Public framing diverges from internal assessments. No one uses the phrase, "end of stellar time," outside restricted channels. I sit back and rub my eyes. The blue glow tints my fingers, my wrists. I feel like I've been soaked in it. On one corner of the main MPC panel, a clock counts down the modeled internal threshold. Solar stability T, 71 hours 12 minutes and 33 seconds. At some point while I was writing, the abstract -72 hours became a live timer. Someone turned the models into a countdown widget. 71 hours. 12 minutes. 33 seconds. The sun has a deadline now, and someone decided to put it in the UI. I take a screenshot, drop it into the mirror directory, and hash again. The hash file grows longer. The story it's protecting grows shorter. Outside, daylight spreads over Pasadena. Cars move on the street. People get coffee, drop kids off, check email. The world runs its scripts. In here, we have a number, a slope, a log, and a choice I've only half made. I'm not going to break the story open, not yet. I've chosen to be precise instead of loud. But precision has its own pressure. At some point, someone higher up will decide whether the truth comes out as a controlled statement or as a rumor they fail to contain. When they do, the file I'm building will either be evidence that we tried to be careful, or proof that we hid the clock and hoped no one heard it. On my screen, the counter ticks down another few seconds. 71 hours 12 minutes and 18 seconds. For the first time, I wonder, not just whether the sun will keep burning, but whether, before those numbers hit zero, I'll still believe that silence was the lesser lie. By the time the countdown slips under 48 hours, the models stop arguing. On my main screen, the solar stability widget that someone quietly added to the dashboard has changed color. It used to be a yellow bar with a fuzzy range, T, 72H plus or minus something we pretended not to see. Now it's a red line, sharp. Solar stability T, 47 hours 58 minutes and 9 seconds. Uncertainty, 3%. Every variable resolves. Every model fails to save us. The sentence sits at the bottom of a PDF from Goddard, attributed to M. Chong et al., like it's just another journal draft. It's the whole abstract, if you're honest. The final plot looks deceptively simple. On one axis, time. On the other, some composite measure of internal solar stability they had to invent, a dimensionless number meant to hold a star's mood. The line descends gracefully at first, then steepens. At T0 it hits 1, the arbitrary boundary they're calling the threshold. Past that, the plot stops. There's no line for after. I print it. We haven't printed anything all night. Everything has lived in screens and hashes and cloud shares. But I send this graph to the dusty laser printer in the corner like it's 1999, walk over, and wait while the machine wakes up with a groan and spits the page out. On paper, the line feels more final. The ink still smells faintly metallic. I carry it back to my station and place it next to the old Oumuamua headline and my half-drunk coffee. 3 relics, a past panic, a present curve, and caffeine that can't keep up. The phone on the desk buzzes. The number is labeled, Goddard, Chang Direct. I pick up. Yeah, I say. How's your graph wall? Miles asks. His voice is worn thin. Crowded, I say. Yours? Officially closed, he says. We just got the word. No more new runs. All major sims archived under higher classification. We're in the sit with what we know phase now. Physics is done. I say. Physics did its job, he says. It told us what happens if the interaction stays on course. It also told us we don't have knobs to turn at this scale. Everything past that is policy, logistics, theology, take your pick. On my monitor, the residual plot still shows the same quiet slope. The latest points, now coming in from a world's worth of telescopes funneled through official channels, keep stacking along the modeled line as if it's a track and not a coincidence. You sound calmer, I tell him. I'm not, he says. I'm resolved. There's a difference. Panic is trying to change something you can't. Resolution is knowing there's nothing left to change. That's supposed to make me feel better. It's supposed to make you stop looking for a lever that isn't there. I look at the bank of keyboards in front of me, the buttons and sliders that can usually tilt a narrative, if not a planet. None of them say, fix star. What happens next? I ask. Next, he says. We do housekeeping. Archive everything. Make sure the record is clean. Then we sit in too many rooms with too many important people who suddenly remember what the sun does for them. You're closing the door on people like me, I say. It comes out flatter than I intend. Not exactly, he says. You'll still get summary numbers. You're in the innerish circle now. But the full detail goes in a vault. If we survive, it'll be a story for future grad students. If we don't, he trails off. If we don't, I say, no one will complain about access. Exactly, he says. Listen, Alex, there's something else. We're updating the language for internal docs. You might as well hear it from me. Shoot. We're phasing out internal solar stability threshold in favor of loss of solar integrity event. I stare at the printed graph. That sounds like a PR team named it, I say. They did, he says. With input from lawyers. Loss of integrity sounds less like the universe tearing out its own wiring and more like a glitch you can file tickets about. Do you care what they call it? I ask. Not now, he says. My equations don't take nouns as inputs. I put in the parameters, I get out the same answer. Whatever label we slap on it is for humans to fight over. And the humans upstairs? I ask. What are they doing? Running scenarios, he says. Not for the sun. For people. Grid contingencies, comms protocols, space weather preparedness plans on steroids. The usual. The usual, I repeat, looking at the countdown. 47 hours 53 minutes and 2 seconds. I have to go, he says. They're about to drag me into a meeting with someone who outranks gravity. Don't stop logging. I won't, I say. The line clicks dead. For a minute I just listen, to the vents, the low buzz of electronics, the faint murmur of a TV left on in another room. No one in the building screams. No alarms. Just the polite, relentless ticking of the wall clock. I turn back to my internal log document and add a line. Approximate, T48H, final solar models converged, all simulations closed. Language shift, internal stability threshold, loss of solar integrity event. Physics complete, response shifts to policy and contingency. The phrase, physics complete, feels like an epitaph. My phone lights up with a different name this time. Mia, mobile. My sister. I hesitate a second too long. It goes to missed call. A notification pops up, one new voicemail. I shouldn't. I do. Her voice comes through the tiny speaker, bright and a little breathless. I can hear seagulls in the background. She's probably walking near the water up in Seattle, earbuds in, coat zipped up to her chin. Hey, space boy, she says. You're probably buried in some planet or whatever, but I figured I'd try. You sounded off in your text. Call me when you're not married to your monitors, okay? Love you. The message is 30 seconds. It lands heavier than the whole PDF from Goddard. I call back before I can talk myself out of it. She picks up on the second ring. Wow, she says. NASA let you out of the cage. Very funny, I say. Seriously, what time is it there? Too early or too late, I say. Depends which clock you use. You sound awful, she says. You sick? Just tired, I lie. Then, because part of me is still honest, I add, it's been a big night. Big how? She asks. Like, we discovered a new moon big, or my segment got bumped by a scandal big? Closer to the first one, I say. Can't talk about it yet. She snorts. You're always doing that, she says. Can't talk about it yet. You know that's not actually a personality trait, right? It might be now, I say. There's a pause. I hear a car splash through a puddle, a dog bark. You're scaring me a little, she says quietly. I swallow. I don't want to do that, I say. Really? It's just one of those nights where the numbers are loud and the policies are louder. She tries to laugh it off. You're the one who always told me the sun will keep burning for billions of years, she says. That was your party trick. The silence that follows is too long. Alex, she says. You still there? Yeah, I say. Forcing my voice to work. Yeah, I'm here. Well, stick to your script, she says. I don't have a backup plan if it calls in sick. Right, I say. Stick to the script. You sure you're okay? She asks. No. Yeah, I say. Just finishing something big. You always say that, she says. This time I mean it, I say before I can stop myself. She catches the tone. Now I'm really scared, she says. I'm fine, I insist. I just can't sleep. Too much blue light. I glance at the monitors. I'll crash later. Promise. Text me when you do, she says. Even if I'm at work. Even if you just send a stupid emoji. I will, I say. Love you, she says. Love you too, I say. When the call ends, the room feels bigger and smaller at the same time. I add to the log. Personal note, unshared, spoke to Mia. Lied by omission. Told her I'm finishing something big. She still believes the script where the sun outlives us. For now, I let her. On the public feeds, the language shift that Miles mentioned starts to leak. A banner from NOAA scrolls across a government site. Increased space weather activity expected, agencies prepare to ensure resilience. Another from the Department of Energy. Coordinated exercise planned to test grid response to extreme solar events. Exercises. Tests. Preparedness. In Washington, rooms fill with people whose job is to think about worst cases. They give those rooms acronyms and security clearances, check names at doors, lock phones in boxes. We see only the reflections, calendar invites tagged secret, calls we're not allowed to record, summarized guidance filtered down through layers until all the edges are rounded. Up on one screen, a live shot of the National Mall plays with the sound off. Morning there, gray sky, joggers, tour groups, school buses. Somewhere under those domes, they're talking about loss of solar integrity with faces that try not to twitch. The control room in Pasadena is almost empty. Shift change happened quietly an hour ago, most of the overnight crew drifted out, pale and blinking. The day team is thinner than usual, a skeleton crew of operators and one anchor on standby, hair and makeup done just in case someone decides we should smile while we say, resilience, on air. My exec pings me with a short message. From EP, Dayside. Subject, Atlas. We're holding any serious coverage. NASA/WH will likely brief select outlets off the record later today with space weather preparedness framing. We may be in that room. If so, you're with me. For now, no scare graphics. You okay? I type back. Functionally. She sends a thumbs up emoji. Even here, the language softens itself. At 11:23 a.m. local, another notification slides into the internal inbox. From NASA HQ, Science Directorate, Restricted. Subject: 3i/Atlas, Simulation Archive. All major simulation suites related to 3i/Atlas, Solar Interaction are now closed. No further parameter exploration is planned at this time. Primary focus shifts to observational monitoring and societal impact mitigation. Please ensure all local model outputs are archived in accordance with attached protocol. Do not generate or circulate unofficial simulations. Attached protocol, 10 pages on directory names, checksum procedures, encryption keys, off-site backups. Physics is over. Filing begins. I open the protocol and compare it to what I've already been doing. Hashing, mirroring, off-site copies. The difference is that now it's mandatory, not compulsive. I start building the final archive. Directory. /event/3i_atlas/core_archive/a_carter/. Inside it, subfolders. Model/ every plot and dataset from Goddard and Partners, redacted headers and all. OBS/ raw and reduced observations, residual timelines. Com/ internal memos, guidelines, bridge call summaries. Log/ my own internal chronicle, compressed into time-stamped segments. The file tree grows on the screen like a nervous system. For each folder, I generate hashes, cross-check them, store them in a separate text file. Then, per protocol, I generate a master hash for the whole directory and print that, too, on a single sheet of paper. The sheet looks unassuming. A path name, a date, a long string of characters. It's the fingerprint of an ending. The engineer stops by my station, looks at the printouts, the PDFs, the countdown. "What's all this?" he asks. "Housekeeping," I say. "Big housekeeping," he says. "Big house," I answer. He studies the red countdown bar for a moment. "You think we'd know it?" he asks, nodding at it. "If the sun really, you know." "Yeah," I say. "I think we would." "You think they'll tell people?" he asks. I look at the multiple guidance emails, the exercises, the euphemisms. "Eventually," I say. "In some form." He nods like that's the best answer anyone could give and goes back to his panels. In the afternoon, Pasadena slides into its usual haze. Through the windows, the light is harsh and flat, the sky bleached. No one glancing up from a sidewalk would see anything wrong with the sun. It shines like it always has, relentless, indifferent, perfectly normal. On my monitor, the stability timer ticks down past 40 hours. At T36H, an alert pings from Goddard. From M. Chang. Subject: Final interior snapshot. For those still staring at plots, attached is the last full interior snapshot we're releasing before we close access. Nothing new in the big picture. Some core modes are already showing early deviation from baseline, consistent with projected trajectory. No obvious way to turn it off. We'll keep monitoring. Past a point, though, observation becomes academic. Attached is a cross-section of the sun I've seen 1,000 times in textbooks: core, radiative zone, convection cells. Only this time, certain regions are highlighted in red, annotated with times and confidence intervals. The caption at the bottom repeats the pattern. Every variable resolves. Every model fails to save US. I print this one too. It lands on the desk atop the earlier plot, heavier for being called final. I stare at it until the ink blur into abstract patches of gray. Somewhere between the first detection of drift and this plot, something irreversible happened, not just to the star, but to my relationship with it. It's not a background anymore. It's a process with an end I can point to on a clock. I open my internal log for what feels like the 100th time. Final interior snapshot received. Deviations already measurable, consistent with projected trajectory toward loss of solar integrity. Simulations closed, monitoring continues. After this, physics offers description, not remedy. I pause, fingers on keys, then write. We have moved from, how do we fix this, to, how do we witness it? In the evening, the exec and I get pulled into another bridge, this one smaller, HQ, a handful of network science people, one White House science advisor whose voice is familiar from public briefings on much smaller crises. They confirm what we already have in our folders, in our bones. From a scientific standpoint, the advisor says, we're as confident as we can be that, absent some unmodeled intervention, we're on track for a significant loss of solar stability within the previously discussed time frame. Someone from HQ asks, is there any scenario where this passes without major impact? Not any we'd bet on, the advisor says. Is there any actionable mitigation? The exec asks. Her voice is steady. She's asking the only question that actually matters in her world. On the level of the star? No, the advisor says. On the level of infrastructure? Some. We can harden systems, preemptively shut certain things down, move others into safe modes, stage resources. But this is not a power outage you can reroute around. At best, we're shaving the sharp edges. So what do we tell people? She asks. That, the advisor says after a long pause, is being discussed. Carefully. We don't want to say nothing. We also don't want to say something in a way that maximizes chaos and minimizes meaningful preparation. Understood, my exec says. I don't say anything. My role on these calls is to remember. When the bridge ends, an internal memo lands almost immediately. From NASA HQ, Public Affairs. Subject, draft external messaging, not for release. I scan it. It's a masterpiece of half-truths. We have observed unusual solar activity associated with a passing interstellar object. Agencies are taking prudent steps to ensure the resilience of critical infrastructure. There is no immediate cause for panic. People may experience temporary disruptions. Nowhere, a number. Nowhere, a countdown. I paste it, like everything else, into the log. The night that follows is different from the others. There are fewer calls. Fewer emails. The frantic edge has bled out of the system, replaced by a heavy, humming stillness. It's as if, once the last model line was drawn, the universe put a lid on the pot. Physics has said all it can. The rest is waiting. Around midnight, the control room is nearly empty again. One anchor asleep in a back office, makeup smudged. Two operators dozing in shifts. The engineer watching a hockey game on mute on his tablet, one eye on the boards. I stand up and walk to the far window. Pasadena at midnight isn't glamorous. A few headlights on the freeway. Sodium lamps in parking lots. The JPL campus lights glint faintly on the hill, another nest of blue glow. Above it all, the sky is a washed-out charcoal. Light pollution wipes most stars. The one we worry about is too bright to look at, even at night, invisible now as it hangs on the other side of the planet. I press my palm flat against the glass. It's cool. If you didn't know, this would be just another exhausted night after a long shift. If you did, every quiet street would look like a paused scene. Back at my station, the solar timer says. Solar stability T, 31 hours 7 minutes and 55 seconds. It's just numbers, but my body reacts as if they were footsteps behind me. I open the archive directory one more time. Everything is there. Residuals. Models. Memos. Logs. The graph that says every model fails. The voice that says policy will invent the words. My sister's call, summarized in one dry line. The lies we told the public by omission, printed as they were written. I create a compressed, encrypted version of the archive per protocol, then another one per something older than protocol, habit, instinct, superstition. 2 copies. One for the system, one for somewhere the system can't easily reach. The first copy goes onto the secured network drive specified in the memo, RAID array in a basement I've never seen. I watched the progress bar creep to 100%, wait for the confirmation, check the checksum. The second copy goes onto a small, unremarkable external drive I bought on the way to work 3 months ago for a totally different project. White plastic, no logo. I plug it into the USB port. The operating system sees it, mounts it, gives it a forgettable name, Untitled. I name it, Stellar_Record. The copy process takes a few minutes. While it runs, the hum of the room feels louder. When it finishes, I eject the drive properly, hold it in my hand. It's warm from the port, the faintest ghost of the data inside it. Protocol says I should store it in a designated off-site safe. Protocol doesn't specify which one. In the back corner of the control room, behind a row of unused equipment racks, there's a small gray cabinet we euphemistically call the bomb shelter, a fireproof safe for backup tapes, legal records, worst-case scenarios. The code is written on a post-it in a locked drawer. I've seen the engineer use it during drills. I borrow the post-it. The metal dial is stiff under my fingers, the tumbler sluggish. The door opens with a reluctant sigh. Inside, old LTO tapes labeled with years, a stack of sealed envelopes, a hard drive in an anti-static bag with a red sticker, 9/11 archive, do not erase. I make space beside it and slide Stellar_Record in, tucking it behind a binder no one has touched in a decade. For a second, the absurdity hits me, putting the end of the sun next to a day when we thought hijacked planes were the worst thing the sky could throw at us. I close the safe, spin the dial, return the post-it. Back at my desk, I update the log. Created full archive per protocol, stored on secured network. Created secondary encrypted copy, placed in physical fireproof safe with legacy archives. Label, Stellar_Record. If system stories vanish, this one might not. It's an insurance policy for a future that may not exist. On my screen, the text cursor blinks at the end of the last line. The blinking feels like breathing. I open a blank document. No headers, no tags, no policy language. Just one line across the top. Final note, internal only. I stare at the empty page for longer than I should. Then I type, fingers barely brushing the keys. Recorded as observed. No claims, no adjectives. It's an echo of the first night, when I changed engineered to anomalous, because legal told me to. Back then, I thought adjectives were where the drama lived. Tonight, I understand they're also where the lies hide. I save the note in the log folder, timestamped, hashed. That's it. That's my contribution to the end of physics as we knew it, a meticulously labeled folder structure and one line that refuses to decorate. I lean back, neck cracking, and let my eyes close for the first time in I don't know how long. In the dark behind my eyelids, I see the same image on loop, the sun from orbit, a smooth disk of white-yellow, serene. Beside it, a thin, curved path, a hairline scratch in space, 3I/Atlas using perihelion the way a scalpel uses skin. The camera in my mind pulls back. Los Angeles at night, grid of light stretching to the horizon, freeways glowing, planes slipping in and out over the ocean. Further back, the western half of the United States, a ragged edge of illuminated cities under moving clouds. Further, the whole planet, blue and white, the limb of the atmosphere a fragile halo. The sun is off frame but present, its light washing everything. Somewhere between the star and the camera, the path of 3I/Atlas curves, invisible but written into the model sitting on drives in rooms like this. None of the people down there know the line exists. They live in the light, not in its source. My phone vibrates against the desk, jolting me awake. A text. From an unknown number, tagged by our system as HQ Secure. Briefing tomorrow 6 o'clock Pacific Time, JPL Campus, closed door. Topic: Space Weather Preparedness, Media Coordination. UNEP expected. Do not bring personal devices into room. I add it to the log and to my calendar. Tomorrow at 6, they'll tell us what we're allowed to say to a country whose star is on a timer. I look at the countdown one more time. Solar stability T, 29 hours 42 minutes and 19 seconds. Under 30 hours now. The monitors cast the same cold blue light they did when this began. The graphs look the same to an untrained eye. Outside, the city breathes. The star hasn't flickered. Physics is quiet. Policy is clearing its throat. I save the log, close the windows one by one until only the stability timer remains. I know I should go home, shower, sleep, pretend morning will be normal. I know in 6 hours I'll be sitting in a different room with different fluorescent lights, listening to people workshop phrases for the end of stellar time. I sit there anyway, in the blue glow, watching the seconds slip away, and wonder, when the door in that JPL conference room closes behind us, and someone says, "This is off the record," whether any of the words we choose will matter more than the one thing I've already written. Recorded as observed. No claims. No adjectives. Just a clock, and a star, and the question of how honest we dare to be with the time that's left. We file out of the JPL conference room in 2s and 3s, quieter than when we went in. No one raises their voice. No one laughs. It's the kind of silence you hear at airports when flights have been cancelled and everyone is still pretending it's just weather. Phones wait in their lockboxes. A guard hands mine back. It feels heavier than it should. The briefing could have been worse. It also could have been honest. Words from an hour ago still circle my head. Unusual solar activity. Out of an abundance of caution. Temporary disruptions. Space weather event. Not once, the sun will not remain the sun as you know it. Not once, a countdown. We step into the hallway. Fluorescent lights buzz, unaware. A poster on the wall shows a stylized sun with a smiling face, part of some outreach campaign. Our star, our home, it says. They'll have to take that down, I think, or we'll all see it differently. My exec, Lauren, walks next to me, arms folded around a folder she can't show on air. Well, she says finally, that was a masterclass in saying everything and nothing. Physics in the slides, policy in the adjectives, I say. Don't start, she says. We've got a day and a half to thread this needle. We don't have a day and a half, I say. We have that minus however long it takes for people to panic once they smell something's off. She glances at me. You think we should blow it up, she asks. Go full alarm? No, I say, surprising myself with how quickly it comes. I think if we try to tell the whole truth in one hit, we get noise and riots and a lot of people spending their last hours in traffic jams. And we still don't change the star. So what do you want to do, she says. Record it clean, I say. Say what we can, exactly. Don't sell hope we don't have. Don't sell doom either. Just, tag the moment for whoever comes after. If anyone comes after, she says softly. Yeah, I say. If. We reach the parking lot exit. The security guard nods us through. Outside, the air is cold enough to bite. The eastern horizon over the San Gabriels is a thin, bright line. Night is still hanging on above it, but you can feel the turn, like the building exhaling. Go home, Alex, Lauren says. Get 3 hours of sleep. Then come back and help me write the least dishonest space weather segment in American television history. Yes, ma'am, I say. She starts toward her car, then stops and looks back. Hey, she says. You okay? Like, actually? No, I say. But I'm here. That'll have to do, she says. Text me when you're up. She walks away, heels sharp on asphalt, then muted by distance. I stand there for a moment with my badge still around my neck, the lanyard tugged sideways by gravity and sweat and the weight of the last 48 hours. Then I turn and look east. The mountains are just silhouettes for now. Above them, the sky is a gradient from black to a sort of deep, bruised blue. One star lingers, stubborn. The sun waits behind the ridge, invisible and inevitable. The building behind me hums like a machine trying not to wake the neighborhood. It's the same sound as that first night. The same transformer buzz in the bones of the place. Only now I know what kind of current is running through it. I walk to my car. The lot is half full. A few early arrivals in faded sedans and leased SUVs, a couple of government plates. Dew beads on windshields, catching the first hint of light. I unlock my old hatchback, slide into the driver's seat, shut the door. The world cuts down to interior, steering wheel, dash lights, my own breath. I start the engine, then immediately reach for the radio out of habit. A talk station comes on mid-sentence. No need for alarm, officials say. While agencies are preparing for potential impacts from what they call an unusually strong space weather period, there is no immediate threat to. I turn it off. Silence fills the car, thicker and somehow more honest. I tilt the seat back and look up through the windshield. The sky is lighter now. The deep blue is creeping down, pushing the dark away. The top edges of the mountains are outlined in silver. In half an hour, the disk will clear the ridge. From every driveway, every bus stop, every storefront window, people will see the same thing they've always seen, a bright circle too dazzling to stare at directly. They won't know how thin the line under it is. My phone buzzes once on the passenger seat. Mia, you alive? I type back. Yeah. Watching sunrise from work. We'll call later. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. Mia, nerd. She sends a picture, the Seattle waterfront in that washed-out, early morning gray, ferries cutting across the water, the sky low and heavy. A single break in the clouds lets a shaft of gold through, spotlighting one corner of the bay. Under it, sun says hi. I stare at the photo until my throat tightens, then put the phone face down. The plan, if you can call it that, is simple. We don't say, 3 days. We don't say, end. We don't say, ruin, or collapse, or death. We say, preparedness, and resilience, and temporary impacts. We give people a story they can fit in their daily routines. Something that explains the glitches without shattering the frame. And somewhere, in a fireproof cabinet in a control room, another story sits in silence, waiting. The eastern sky brightens. The first hard line of sun appears between two mountain peaks, white gold, slicing through the haze. Light rushes ahead of it, washing across the parking lot, hitting the building, my windshield, my hands. For a second, it looks slower. Like the morning has to push harder to get over the edge. Then the illusion passes. The sun climbs, as it always has, indifferent. I sit there and let it hit my face. Around the country, other mornings are happening in parallel. In Manhattan, the barista at a corner coffee shop pulls up the metal gate, the rollers squeaking as they catch and slip. He was up late doom-scrolling about potential satellite issues and banking maintenance windows, but the city still needs espresso. By 6:30, the shop is full of familiar choreography, suits with earbuds, nurses in scrubs, a guy with paint-splattered jeans and a half-finished tattoo sleeve. The line moves. Beans grind. Milk hisses. On the wall-mounted TV in the corner, the morning news show plays on mute. A banner at the bottom of the screen reads, "Agencies prepare for strong solar storm." No immediate cause for alarm. The host smiles, teeth bright, eyes serious. A small animation of a sun with cartoon flares loops behind her. No one looks up for more than a second. Orders matter more than orbits. Someone snaps a picture of their latte art. Someone complains about their commute. Someone tips in singles, the bills crumpled from pockets. When the barista finally glances at the TV, he just mutters, "Great, my Wi-Fi's gonna suck," and reaches for another cup. In a suburb outside Dallas, a 10-year-old boy named Tyler is tying his sneakers at the kitchen table. His dad has the local news on in the background. The anchor is talking about possible disruptions to GPS services later in the week and temporary outages. The graphic behind him shows a cloud of orange around a yellow circle, like a weather map for space. Tyler doesn't care about that. He's more interested in the way the light is hitting the backyard fence. The sun is just clearing the roofline of the house next door, turning the dewy grass into a field of tiny sparks. A spiderweb between two fence posts glows like a wireframe. "Dad," Tyler says, "come look at this." "Hang on, buddy," his father says, eyes on the TV, fingers on his phone as he scrolls through an email from work with the subject line, "Possible schedule adjustments." Tyler leans closer to the glass and fogs it with his breath. In his reflection, his eyes look oversized. He doesn't know there's a clock on the thing making that light. He just thinks it's a good day to be on the playground. In a condo tower in Miami Beach, an older man named Raymond laces up his running shoes. He's done this almost every morning for 30 years. There were years he missed because of a surgery, a divorce, a storm that took the boardwalk out to sea. But he always came back. The TV in his living room murmurs something about FAA temporarily grounding some flights for inspection and precautionary shutdowns of certain satellites. He turns it off. The ocean is more interesting. Downstairs, the air smells like salt and exhaust. The sky to the east is already bright, the sun a flattened circle on the horizon, the water below it glittering like broken glass. He stretches, then starts to run. His knees complain. His lungs burn a little faster than they used to. But the rhythm is familiar: foot, foot, breath, foot, foot, breath. He passes a digital billboard for a cruise line. The image flickers for a beat, glitches, then stabilizes. He doesn't notice. He just keeps running toward the light. Back in Pasadena, I'm still in my car. The dash clock says 6:47 a.m. The sun is fully above the mountains now, fierce enough that I have to flip the visor down. Inside the building, the day crew is ramping up. I can picture it without going in: producers queuing up graphics packages with carefully approved language, anchors reviewing scripts that say, scientists stress there is no need to panic, engineers checking backup generators they're not supposed to mention on camera. My phone buzzes again. From NASA HQ, Science Directorate. Subject: Observer status, continued. Despite simulation closures, we request continued observational logging from designated partners. Maintain internal documentation of anomalies, disruptions, and public response where visible. Your role as observers is now as critical as your earlier analytical work. Your role as observers. Not fixers. Not warners. Witnesses. I open my own log on the phone. There's no need, really, we've already locked the archive, hashed it, buried it in safes and servers, but the habit is wired in now. T-24H, approximate. External messaging focused on space weather preparedness. Public frames emerging, minor disruptions, infrastructure resilience. No mention of terminal timescales. Sun rose over Pasadena as if any other day. Light subjectively slower, likely psychological, but noting. I hesitate, then add. World proceeding as scheduled. Only difference is who knows the schedule ends. I close the document. There's a comfort in the mechanics. Timestamps. Lines. Bullet points. They give the illusion of grip on a thing so far beyond grip. A plane crosses the sky overhead, tiny against the brightening blue. For a second, it leaves a contrail. Then the trail thins, dissolves. I imagine the pilots in their sealed cockpit, scanning instrument panels, listening to a slightly more crowded radio frequency as controllers adjust flows, out of an abundance of caution. If anyone told them why, it was offhand, a sentence in a briefing. Something like, "We're expecting some solar turbulence." Nothing you haven't trained for. It's not a lie, exactly. It's just not the whole. My phone rings. Lauren. "Tell me you didn't fall asleep in your car," she says when I answer. "I didn't fall asleep in my car," I say. "You're lying," she says. "Get in here. We've got a slot in the B block." "Copy that," I say. I hang up but don't move yet. From where I'm parked, I can see the edge of the control room through the tinted second-floor windows, a strip of darkness, a few floating rectangles of light. That's where we're going to tell our version of the story. That's where we're going to look into a camera and try to make this sound like something you can prepare for with bottled water and battery packs. I put the car in park again. For a moment, I entertain the thought, the other option. I could stay out here. I could turn the radio back on, find a station we don't own, call in like a crank and say the part everyone is stepping around. I could tweet the countdown. Post the plots. Leak the archive. Dump stellar_record onto some server that still believes in transparency. I can see the cascade that would follow: headlines, emergency meetings, denials, confirmations, copycats. People would run to screens, then to stores, then to highways. Some would say the world is ending. Some would say it's a hoax. Some would pray harder. Some would drink harder. It would feel like doing something. It wouldn't change tea. I rest my forehead against the steering wheel. Recorded as observed, I murmur. No claims. No adjectives. It's turned into a sort of mantra, stripped down until there's nothing left to grab. I straighten, turn the engine off, pocket the keys. Then I get out of the car and walk back toward the building. The control room is brighter in the morning. The big screens on the wall show a mix of feeds, live shots from space weather observatories, archival drone footage of power lines and data centers, B-roll of critical infrastructure, the network's morning show graphics. Someone has already loaded a solar storm package, swirling orange shapes, stylized magnetic lines, the title in bold, slightly alarmist font that legal signed off on at 2 a.m. Lauren stands near the center console, headset on, coffee in hand. She waves me over with the cup. "You're on in 12, she says. "You good?" "As good as I'm going to be," I say. She glances at my badge. "You're still wearing yesterday," she says. "Might as well. Time is fake now anyway." She hands me the rundown. I skim. Segment structure. Anchor intro: what's happening on the sun? Pre-produced explainer with animations: what is a solar storm? Discussion. Anchor plus, network science producer Alex Carter. Key phrases highlighted: no immediate cause for panic, agencies preparing, potential brief impacts, scientists watching closely. No mention of hours. No mention of thresholds. You'll stick to the script? Lauren asks, low. I'll stick to the truth that fits inside it, I say. Fair, she says. If you feel tempted to go rogue, remember, our mics don't reach the star. They barely reach half our own audience. She's trying to joke. It comes out tired. In the studio corner, the anchor, Elise, is having powder dabbed on her forehead. She catches my eye, raises her brows. You ready, Carter? She calls. Define ready, I say. She smiles without showing teeth. Still funny, she says. Good sign. The floor manager counts down. We're back in 5, 4. The red light comes on. The segment unfolds exactly as written. Elise looks into the camera with professional concern. This morning, you may have seen some headlines about unusual activity on our sun, she says. But what does that really mean, and should you be worried? The graphic over her shoulder, solar storm? What to know? They roll the explainer, animations of the sun with flares, arrows showing charged particles hitting Earth's magnetic field. It's clean, accurate, almost comforting. It's the story of a storm you can ride out, a thing the planet has seen before. Then we're split screen. Her on the left, me on the right, in a dimmer corner of the same room. Joining us now is our science producer, Alex Carter, she says. Alex, you've been following this overnight. What are we looking at? It would be so easy, in that moment, to swap a word. End instead of event. Collapse instead of disruption. Clock instead of cycle. I don't. We're looking at a period of very intense interaction between the sun and a visiting interstellar object, I say. That interaction is causing changes in the sun's behavior that could, in the coming days, lead to stronger than usual effects on our technology, satellites, power grids, communications. In the coming days, she repeats. That sounds ominous. Should people be panicking? No, I say, and that part is true in its own way. Panic doesn't help anyone. Agencies are already taking steps, putting some satellites in safe modes, adjusting flight paths, testing backups for the grid. What people at home can do is simple: stay informed, follow official guidance, be ready for temporary disruptions. I stress, temporary, like they asked. She asks me about auroras. I talk about charged particles and magnetic fields and how sometimes the sky puts on a light show when the sun sends a strong gust our way. I keep my adjectives tethered. I don't say terminal. I don't say final. I say unusual, significant, rare. We wrap with a reassuring line. And again, Elise says to camera, no need for alarm right now. Your lights are not going to just suddenly go out. Not just suddenly, I think. Alex, thanks for breaking that down, she says. Anytime, I say. They toss to a weather map. The red light goes off. The room exhales. You did good, Lauren says quietly, coming up beside me. I did accurate, I say. Within the box. Sometimes the box is all you get, she says. We stand there for a minute, watching the weather graphics, cold fronts, heat domes, storms. None of the maps show the one thing that actually matters. After the segment, there's paperwork. Always paperwork. Approvals to sign, notes to file, logs to update. I drop my talking points into the archive, annotate, external messaging snapshot, morning tea, 24H. My role is almost done. The record is thick enough now that it could outlive us by thousands of years, if anything can read it. The day outside rolls forward. Traffic swells and thins. Kids go to school. Markets fluctuate. Airlines adjust schedules. Someone complains on social media about their streaming service glitching. Someone else posts a time-lapse of the sunrise with a filter that makes the colors surreal. In New York, the barista changes the channel to a sports show. In Dallas, Tyler's teacher draws a yellow circle on the whiteboard and asks the class to name the planets. In Miami, Raymond finishes his run, hands on knees, sweat on his neck, the sun high and bright above him. None of them know there's a line on a graph that ends before their natural lifetimes do. None of them know their star has a deadline. I could tell them. I don't. Instead, I walk to the back corner of the control room when no one is looking and stand in front of the gray fireproof cabinet. I don't open it. I don't need to. I just put my hand on the cool metal and think about the little white drive inside, labeled stellar_record, sitting next to old tapes and histories of smaller disasters. Some future intelligence, alien or human or something else, might pry this open one day, slot the drive into a reader, and see the folder tree. They'll see the plots, the memos, the logs, the clip of a man on morning television telling a nation not to panic in the shadow of a star about to break. They'll know we saw it coming. They'll know we tried to put it into words. They'll know what we didn't say. That's the best I can offer them, proof that, in these last days, someone was watching with their eyes open. You coming? Lauren calls from the doorway. We're grabbing breakfast before the next briefing. In a minute, I say. She nods and disappears. I stand there alone in the hum and the cold blue light, hand on the safe, the murmur of distant monitors drawing a soft halo around the moment. Outside, the sun climbs higher over America. In 3 days or less, or more, if Miles's error bars are kinder than we expect, the equations say it will become something else. A different kind of light. A burst. A shudder. A wave. I don't know what that will feel like from here. No one does. For now, it just feels like morning. I take my hand off the cabinet, switch off the overhead fluorescents by the door, and step into the hallway. Behind me, the control room stays lit by screens alone, a cave of artificial day inside the building. In my mind, the opening image echoes, a room humming like a machine trying not to wake the city. The universe kept its deadline. We're the ones who learned how to count to it. I walk toward the smell of burnt coffee and cheap eggs, toward the sound of colleagues arguing about phrasing, toward another day of pretending this is all just space weather. Somewhere deep inside the star, beyond any of our models, something continues to drift, patient, exact, unhurried. I don't know if it's a weapon, a message, or just a natural process we never had a word for. I just know it's still moving. And until the light says otherwise, so am I.